going to see if this thing can be fixed and if it's even worth fixing. Hey there, welcome back to the channel where we love to talk about all things tools and technology. So in the last video, we got our initial reactions to this Hart Stack system. You saw me unbox it, and we went through, one of the things that you saw that I noticed very quickly when I went to open this lid, it has these pretty nice latches. Now these are the latches that connect one box to the other. So this thing will go on top. There's like a little lip here that sticks out. Will go on top of these little grooves right here. So that's how those lock together. I have more to say about that in just a few minutes, but it has these nice metal latches. And one of the things that you'll notice, when I first opened it up in that video, it made this sound. I was like, oh, that's not good. So what's happening here is, if you can compare these hinges to this one, this hinge pin or rod, whatever you want to call that, is not in the plastic holes. So I think this will be an easy fix. I think we'll be able to push this back through and then get it lined up with the holes, push it back through where it's supposed to be, and all should be well. But I don't know that for sure. These could be broken. They don't look like they're broken, but that thing's in the way at this point. I'm thinking we can push it back through with, I don't know, some pliers or something maybe, but we'll see. And but before we get to fixing this, I had some other thoughts on this that I've noticed. So let's compare this thing. I have one of these DeWalt Pro organizers, right? These are really nice, but I have some thoughts. There's some ways that I think I like this better. So it really depends on what you like better, what your needs are, but you can see they're roughly the same depth from front to back. The DeWalt is much shallower, but they do have deeper boxes, so I'm assuming that this Hart box is probably more similar to the full-size Pro organizer from DeWalt, but you can see that it's much thinner, and the Hart is just, not only is it thicker from top to bottom, but it's also just a little bit wider, maybe a couple inches there. So I noticed one thing that I like about the Hart. Let me latch one of these so it's not going to go falling open on us. I like that the Hart has this fold-up handle. This one, the DeWalt, doesn't have a fold-up handle, and so this space right here where your hand goes is just almost like wasted space. So I like the idea of the folded handle. Another thing that I like about this, okay, with the DeWalt, how they connect to each other is these latches. They flip up like this. So the bottom of the next box on top of this would be right here, and this little lip on the edge of this yellow plastic would grab. So that's how those connect. Well, there's one on each side. One thing I like better about this Hart system is that they have 4 points of contact. So you have these little cleats, or whatever you want to call it, these little tabs here that are going to go into these little grooves on the back here. So that's where those are going to go. Now, there are actually 4 points of contact on the back, and then on the front you have these 2 points of contact, because these things slide in and out. So when that's slid in, that overhangs the box neck above it. So this part of the box right here is where that slides into. So you have 6 points of contact holding the boxes together, as opposed to just 2 on the DeWalt. So I actually really like that. Now, something I don't like that I've noticed sure this is unlatched. Okay, you'll notice I don't have to tip this very far and they just start sliding, right? We're not even up to 180 degrees. Now if I take the DeWalt and they don't, you have to put them back in place so that thing's gonna close all the way. So the DeWalt, you can turn it, you have to be past 180 degrees before those things start sliding around and move, and they'll actually come out this way before they'll just start sliding down like these ones do. So I like that better about the DeWalts. And if I remember right, the Packouts are more like the DeWalt in that regard. So that is a minus on these Hart Stack systems. But there are more things to talk about. On some of the other systems, like the Packout, the Tough System 2.0, the I believe the Ryobi and the Rigid and the Flex, Klein, I believe they all have a rubber gasket going all the way around. Now you can see there is no rubber gasket on this, so this is not going to be IP rated. I mean, I'm not too worried about that myself. I mean, I don't plan to be throwing this in any lakes. So I'm not really worried about that, but it's a consideration for some people. In all fairness though, this DeWalt one doesn't have that either. Another thing that I wanted to point out that I think is really, really good about these, it was a concern of mine, was if I put this dime in here, and the dime is pretty thin. As you know, that's the thinnest coin that we have in the US anyway. So if I put that in here, and I just lock one of these down, that thing, I have messed around, moved it around, it will not go from one compartment to the other. It just sort of rolls around in that one compartment, which is great because I don't want to put little screws or little connectors in here or whatever and have it jumping from one compartment to the other. I've had that happen with those cheapo organizers that you sometimes get with like an assortment of screws or different connectors in it. Like sometimes you'll get like little butt connectors or whatever, and they'll have those, they'll come in like a little plastic organizer that's basically like a credit card or maybe even thinner than that plastic. And I've dropped those and had everything go all over the place. I've dropped those and had just the lid flex enough where stuff could go from one compartment to the other. So I'm really happy with that. That once I close this up, screws or whatever I have in here, whatever little things I have in here, aren't going to be able to go from one compartment to the other. Now, I don't know that holds true. They have these smaller boxes that are basically like half this size, and they're shallower, and I believe those have those dividers in there instead of bins that are removable. I don't know, I haven't tested those, I don't own one of those yet, but those may potentially allow for stuff to go under or over those dividers. So I can only speak to this. I will test those other ones when I get that, but for this, I'm very happy with it. So let's get to fixing this thing and see if we can fix it. And if we can fix it, if it's even gonna be too much of a hassle where like, hey, if it comes like this, do you wanna just take it back? I don't really wanna have to take it back because it's out there, it's at the other end of town. Not that I live in a huge city, but it's enough of a hassle that I don't wanna have to go up there. So let's see if we can fix this. So there is a little piece of the polycarbonate lid in there, so it may not be good. We may have to take it back. All right, so here is our first and hopefully our only necessarily needed attempt, but we'll see if this works or not. I'm just going to try to take these channel locks and try to push this hinge pin back this way enough where we can at least grab it or just keep pushing it. We'll see how easy or how hard this thing pushes, and then we can just push it back through, hopefully, and get it to go into the proper holes. Let's see what happens. That may be more difficult than said. It may be easier said than done, I guess I should say. Oh, there we go. It went. Let's see. Gotta pull that back some more. Okay. Yeah, I think that thing's a little bit bent. So I wonder if we can take these channel locks, turn this a little bit so it, yeah. Gotta get that to line up when we push that back through. So what's happening here is that it's bent just enough that it doesn't want to line up with our hole. So I may have to get something else to push down on this hinge pin with, in order to get it to go through those holes. We'll see. I mean, it's nice that it is tapered a little bit. It's got almost like a point on the end of it. Alright, I'm gonna have to go get something to see if we can push down on that. Alright, we're gonna try these wire strippers. They have a fairly blunt nose on them there, so let's see if that will do the trick to hold that hinge pin down into position there while we push it into place. I guess I'm not holding that down far enough. It started, finally started. So, let's see if we can't just get it to keep on going. I know this isn't the proper use for channel locks and wire strippers, but it's what I have on hand. So after a few minutes of messing around with it, I did get the pin to go back where it's supposed to be, but let me show you why I ended up deciding to take it back. So, you can see here how the pins, this is the new one, how the pins go through the holes on both the bin itself and the lid. So what was happening on the other one, and I wasn't able to see it because the pin was bent and in the way, plus it was hard to see because it's just a little tiny clear piece of plastic. But that little plastic that we saw rolling around inside that old one was a piece where the hinge is. So the hinge pin was able to go through the hole on the black plastic, but not on the clear polycarbonate lid. So because of that, it would just lift up. Instead of this being nice and solid and you can't pull that up, it was just pulling right up. So that wouldn't be good. So I decided to just go ahead and take it back. You know, I mean, if I had had this for, 6 months or a year and it happened, I would probably just try to maybe do something with it. Some stuff, I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically you put it in boiling water, you take the plastic out, you can mold it to whatever you need to, and it hardens that way, so you're able to make your own plastic parts. So I might have tried something like that, but you know what, since it was new and I was still within the return period, I decided to go ahead and take it back. Unfortunately, with Walmart, you have to take the entire 3-piece set back because they come zip tied together, so they're considered one unit. It's like you can't just take like your left shoe back. You have to take, you know, the whole set back. So I took the set in there, returned it, and got a new one, and everything seems to be really good with this new one, except for one little thing. On the middle box, I noticed that the lid wasn't closing, so I had to push it in the front of the box just a little bit with my thumb. So maybe that'll work itself out over time, but I'll show you that right now. Okay, it's making a liar out of me because it's working perfect now. But what I had to do before was push in right here with my thumb in order to get that to latch, but it's working just fine now. Now, when I went back, I also bought one of the small organizers, and I will show you that now. So I bought 2 of these little organizers because I thought they would be great for like small screws and stuff. So here's a couple thoughts, a couple experiments that I did. So number 1, the latch is right here, and I wish they would have put some plastic right in here, because sometimes you want to grab next to where the latch is instead of actually where the latch is. So if they would have put some plastic into here so you couldn't fit your finger in there, that would have made it a little bit easier to just sort of grab without thinking of it and unlatch it. So not a big deal, but this thing, you can see, unlike that bigger box that had the broken lid on the last one, this actually has this IP gasket here, so that's pretty nice. And instead of the removable bins, you have these removable dividers. So you can take these out and arrange this in any way you want. Like, let's say you wanted, I don't know, a set of maybe some screwdrivers in here. You could have, you know, you could take out these little ones and leave the long ones in, and you could have maybe, you know, maybe your Phillips here, and, you know, maybe some specialty ones over here, whatever. And so that's nice. Now, I tried our little trick with the dime, and unfortunately, unlike the other one where I wasn't able to get the dime to go from one compartment to the other, when I took the dime and I set it in there and I put it upside down and I just kind of moved it around, I was able to get it to go from one compartment to the other in one row, but not from row to row, because as you can see, these actually stick up a little bit farther than the little ones, and there's these little grooves right here. So now, that being said, even though I was able to get the dime to go from one to the other, I was not able to get a penny to go from one to the other. So it would have to be something super small. If you're putting screws in here, it would have to be something really small. I mean, if you're doing general carpentry things or woodworking, I would not worry about that at all. If you are working on computers, if you're a tech fixing computers or phones or whatever, and you're working with super tiny screws, at that point you might want to do something like either keep the screws in the package or in like a little baggie, or maybe something I had thought about doing is potentially putting some foam weather stripping, like it's just peel and stick, cut it to size, run it down these little grooves, maybe, you know, across the little ones, whatever, wherever you think you're going to need it, and then that foam weather stripping would just squish down against these, and so that would give you a very affordable little organizer for your screws, and then even those tiny screws wouldn't be able to go from one compartment to the other. Overall, I really think this is a cool setup. I like this system. Please let me know if you have any questions for me, if you want to know anything about it, you want me to try anything. I plan on buying the drawers. Those look nice for things like maybe screwdrivers or wrenches or pliers, whatever. It seems like that would be a handy little box to have as well, so I'll probably get those. But please let me know if you have any questions, and I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.